Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to the special edition of Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And we're coming to you in the middle of this week because we are very happy to be joined by an Orioles prospect. He's a right-handed pitcher in the Chesapeake Bay Sox bullpen. He is Keagan Gillies. Keagan, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you here. We're doing well. And just want to check in here. We're about a month or so into the minor league season. How are you feeling with the way that the 2025 campaign has played out so far?
I'm very happy for the success I'm having early here. I think a lot of that boils down to just staying with my preparation, coming to the field every day with a plan of attack, and honestly just sticking to that. I think that's the biggest thing I'm doing right now, and hope to keep it going forward.
One area where we've really seen you make some big improvements this year has been in cutting back your walks. What kind of adjustments have you been making on the mound to give you more success with your command?
Honestly, it's just getting 0-1. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Looking at it last year, I wasn't getting ahead in counts early enough. So that's one thing this offseason that I've really tried to work on is regardless of what I'm throwing, how I'm throwing it, I'm getting in there 0-0 and getting that first strike. Because if you look at the percentages and the splits from 0-1 to 1-0, it's huge. I mean, and once you're 0-1, it works big into your favor. And so that's what I try to do every time I go out there.
So which pitch is your favorite to throw? Which one's working the best so far this season for you?
I mean, honestly, all three have been really working. I don't think I can really take one over the others. The cutter I can throw in pretty much any count. I think last year the one thing I've struggled with a lot was getting the splitter in zone, or at least from a strike to ball standpoint. A lot of it was ball to ball, so I was getting a lot of takes on that pitch. Even though it's a really good pitch metrically, I was still getting a lot of takes. So that's one thing that I focused on hard this offseason is to try to get that more in zone, or at least from strike to ball, so I can get a little bit more swing and misses on it.
Yeah, we've talked in the past. You're kind of like a Felix Bautista type reliever, so I think fans need to anticipate the next Felix Bautista coming up here.
Well, I appreciate that. I wish I had the 102 in the back pocket.
Right.
We'll get there one day.
But going back to your time at Tulane, you rebounded nicely from the COVID-shortened season in 2020 to put up great numbers out of Tulane's bullpen before the draft. How did you use that downtime to improve? And what parts of that development are still a part of your game today?
Yeah, so I started training at Top Velocity in Covington, Louisiana, which is about 50 minutes to an hour from New Orleans. And so once I started there, we really deep dove into the science behind mechanics, biomechanics, what it takes to, be the best athlete on the field. So that was something that we really honed in on and really tried to kind of perfect there. And honestly, I'm still a good ways away from that, but that's something that I've stuck to for 6 years now. It's something that got me out of my junior year when I had kind of a rough patch going into my senior year into COVID. Just working with Brent over there and really honing in on, like I said, being the most athletic on the field, and that really translates to the mound. So that's something that, I still stick to today. And, every year is different. We're coming in with new stuff, new advances in science. So a lot of that plays a part. And so we're just trying to stay up to speed with that and kind of be out in front of the competition with that.
Cool.
That's really been an interesting part of your development is that you did not start off at Tulane as a premium velocity type of pitcher, but you evolved into that over the years. What kind of work did you put in at the facility to get your fastball velocity to the point where it is now, and you've been able to sustain it now for several years?
Oh, man, I really had to reinvigorate myself in a lot of ways. I was an 88 to 91 command guy that just had really good pitchability. So once that velo came, it definitely helped me take off a lot more because I had that pitchability in my back pocket. But a lot of that comes from the weight room. The three main components to have higher velo is speed, strength, and then mobility. And also, all those three are something that I was not excelling at in college at all. So that's something that we really honed in on. A lot of that comes from Olympic lifting. A lot of that comes from a lot of drill work. And, I think both of those, combining that on the mound, is something that really helped me take off.
One of the things that we've kind of seen the Orioles evolve in their player development is a very data-driven organization. So it's focused on play to explain what they're seeing in that data to help you improve. What are the lines of communication like from top to bottom in the farm system, and how does that translate into the work that you do, not just on the mound, but between appearances to get better?
A lot of that comes from our pitching coach, Jordy Henry's very good at helping us with that, and not only translating it, but taking it from Omar, which is our platform that we get a lot of our data from, taking that data and then transferring it to us to work on certain drills. Whatever we're trying to work on is what they're attacking, and we have meetings every 1 or 2 weeks with relievers, so we can kind of go over a lot of this stuff and see where we are in our game plan, as well as what the data is telling us, what we need to do a little bit better, and then we hone back in on that during the week and catch play, and then ultimately try to implement that in game.
And speaking of data, and this day and age, I feel like pitch design is in a really fun place where it's like age isn't really as important anymore with the velocity training and pitch design. If you have, like the Orioles have been able to identify some older guys and add a splitter, or the new thing this year, kick change, add some velocity. What are your thoughts on that at this point in time in player development?
Player development is, it's insane. In the next 2 years, I think, next 2 to 5 years, you're going to see pitching be just almost unhittable at this point. With the data, they have, so much at their disposal to make the perfect pitcher. And the data is only backing that. And from that standpoint, and like I said, in about 5 years, you're going to have, guys throwing 100 it's all physics at this point. Throwing a ball is physics, and how you, spin the ball, and how you can cut spin on the ball with the kick change, like you're saying, and the splitter, which has been, a really successful pitch in baseball. You're going to see that get maximized on a whole nother level, and it's going to be fun to watch these next 5 years on how people are developing these pitches and how they're using it in their repertoire.
Are there any pitches you're working on behind the scenes? We've seen a lot of relievers go from pitching out of the bullpen to adding a pitch or two and then going back to starting. Is that in your future?
No, I don't know if that's in my future necessarily, but I'm just trying to perfect the 3 pitches that I have right now. I think adding a 4th will just add some confusion in there with what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to stick with the 3 I got and try to perfect them to the best as I can.
No, I think that's a good move. It's working for you right now. So
yeah.
What is it like to go from starter to reliever? Because often when we're following a player's development, it always seems like when someone is starting as a struggler or struggling as a starter, people will look at them and say, well, if you put them in the bullpen, the velocity will ramp up. That has worked for you, but it doesn't work for everyone. So what is that transition like?
It was a little bit easier for me just from starting my first 2 years in college as kind of a starter, and then transitioning to the bullpen, and then back to a starter in pro ball. So I already had that experience. I felt really comfortable in the closing role my last 2 years at Tulane. So going back to the starting role, it's fun to be a starter, but for me, it didn't get my rocks off as much as coming in the 9th and closing it down. But it's a tough transition at first, because you got to think you're going every 6 days usually as a starter, and you go to the bullpen, and now you're looking at 2 or 3 times a week. So a lot of that is recovery, and not so much as pitchability and stuff. I think recovery is the biggest tool in that, and also just your routines change a lot. You're in the 5th inning, and the game's kind of going sideways, and they call you immediately without, getting a dynamic warm-up in or any of that stuff. And now you're going out there cold, and then you start to, not pitch as well as you you can. So a lot of that just comes down to routines and how you base your routines off in-game and pre-game. So I think that's the biggest difference from starting to going to the relieving role.
that's a big part of relief pitching that a lot of fans might not understand is how often are you still sore when you got to come into the game? Like pitchers pitch back-to-back games, 2 out of 3 games. Are Are you like, you got to get warmed up to fight through that? What is that process like?
Yeah, I think that boils down to what I was saying in routines and recovery. Sometimes, guys are 2-day soreness. So the day after they throw, they feel better than the day that they did throw. So it just depends who you are, but also it depends on what you're doing post game, what you're doing pre-game. All that stuff plays a factor into your performance that day, especially from a recovery standpoint. Getting your cuffs in post game, getting that strength back in them, and then coming the next day and then getting a good dynamic, getting some sprints in just to get the blood flowing through your system, so that if you are called that day after, you're ready to go and you're not sitting there cold and tight and sore.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Member Week is here at Lowe's. Don't miss your chance to get up to 40% off hundreds of items like paint, stain, tools, flooring, and more. Shop our exclusive deals happening in-store and online from May 8th through May 14th. Not a member? Join My Lowe's Pro Rewards for free today and get ready to save more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. One, I know a lot of pitchers on this Baysox staff, yourself included, let's say have become well accustomed to Bowie, Maryland. A lot of experience,
Chesapeake,
former collegiate. Yeah, Chesapeake in Bowie. But you guys, a lot of former collegiate arms. A lot of you guys, you're on your third stint now with the Bay Sox. How, as far as like the mental side of the game is concerned, like how do you keep yourself focused on the ultimate goal? Because I feel like, you had the ups and downs through a really long college career, COVID interruptions, injured early on in your career. Now your third stint at the AA level. How have you been able to stay grounded through this entire journey?
I mean, ultimately, I think you kind of gotta keep your eyes on the prize. I mean, ultimately, we all want to make the big leagues, and being in AA, you're really not that far. I mean, you're a step away, you're a team away, you're an opportunity away, really. So staying grounded in that, staying grounded in your routines, going to the field every day, and just like, I don't care what happens, I'm going to stick to what I'm doing. And obviously, when you get in those routines, you want to get there, you want to analyze what your body's feeling that day, all that stuff. But ultimately, if you stick to your routines and stick to what you're doing, opportunities are out there. I mean, you've seen a lot of guys that have moved out of this org, out of other orgs that have come to our org and gotten the opportunity to be in the big leagues from AA, high A, AAA. It just doesn't matter at that point. It's all about opportunities. And as long as you show up every day, do what you can do and what you can control, you're going to have those opportunities show up at some point for you. So I think that's something that I've come into this year is regardless of whatever happens, I'm going to stick to what I know and what I can control and then go from there. And honestly, a lot of times those opportunities will come out for you and you just got to take advantage of them.
And I know you're very in tune to, the analytics and the data and really studying everything about the art of pitching, really. You haven't pitched in a AAA game yet, but you do have spring training game appearances under your belt. And I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say that, that Roberto Mercado, hate to see you go, love to watch you leave tweet is going to hit pretty hard when you're the one in the photo. But once you get to the AAA level, there's the different baseball in AAA and the pros, and it's different from what you're using down in AA and below. I'm sure you've trained with that in preparation for that. And for fans, myself included, who may not fully understand, what are the major differences there between those two balls and how that affects, maybe your preparation, or what impact does that have on your stuff, and how are you kind of preparing for that as you hopefully, see the next level?
Yeah. So just a baseline on the different balls is the minor league balls want to rise, have vertical. So up and down, And then big league balls want to go side to side. So that's what they're trying to do. So for a vertical guy like me, a vertical fastball guy, when I get the big league ball in my hand, my vert goes down just a little bit. And sometimes that's hand positioning. That's the way the ball is made. You know, they're wounded up a little bit tighter. They're hand wound, minor league balls are machine wound. So a lot of that plays a factor. Big league balls are a little bit more egg shaped to me. So when I throw my splitter, I have to change up the grip just a little bit to account for that. So the balls are definitely a big factor jumping up to AAA. Now, sometimes guys don't get affected at all. Their stuff stays the same, and that's just from an enormous amount of reasons. But for me, that's just a training thing. It's I think when I first picked up the big league ball a couple years ago, training with it, my stuff just went straight down. Vert went down, everything went down, and I was just sitting there in awe of like, wow, this isn't good. Like, this isn't good at all. But honestly, after about a month of using it, everything kind of just comes back. And that's just due to your training, just getting more comfortable with the ball, and then ultimately, hopefully throwing it in game, which allows it to put a little bit more oomph into it, and then your stuff kind of comes back. So
I also wanted to ask too about some of your teammates down there in Chesapeake. We talk a lot about the immense catching depth in the organization. And obviously this team, you got Adley in the big leagues, you got Basayo working his way up, but the catching depth is truly impressive. What impact have the three guys that you get to work with down there in Chesapeake, Creed, Silas, Retzbach, what impact have those guys had on the pitching staff and yourself specifically?
Tremendously. I can't give enough credit to those guys. They're stealing strikes for us. They're calling really good games and really taking a lot of our thinking out of it. I think when you can go into the game and you can trust what your catcher's putting down, because not only have I put in the work, but they've put in the work on scouting these guys and understanding what they're good at and what they aren't good at, and what my strengths are and how I can, pitch to their weaknesses is something that's big. And all three of those guys have come in. Silas came in the year after me, and so has Retzbach, and Creed came in my draft. And you can see the evolution of, a young 19-year-old Creed to now. And then you can see Silas and Retz, who have college experience, come out with that experience and then just elevate it to another level. It's really awesome to go out there and really trust what your catcher is putting down and take a lot of the thinking out of it. And it really helps us as bullpen guys too. Because they're seeing it for 4 and 5, 6 innings before we come in. So they know what those strengths and weaknesses are. So when we come in, it makes our lives a lot easier.
So how are the general vibes with the team right now? I know the Bay Sox have had some tough luck early on with injuries, but still a lot of talent there, and you all are playing pretty competitive baseball most nights.
The vibes are great. I mean, we got a really, really good clubhouse full of really good guys, a lot of unselfish guys, a lot of guys that, are here for each other regardless of their own intentions. Obviously, you're kind of playing by yourself, but also like it's still a team game at the end of the day. You still need those 9 guys on the field to come out and play their best in order to win. So, regardless of wins and losses, we've been playing really well. We've been playing really tough, close games. Injuries have kind of swept across us a little bit early here, but we're hoping to get a couple of those guys back here pretty soon. And still with that, we've had guys that have come up from, high A that have really stepped in and did really well for us, especially this week with all the injuries we've had. So, the vibes are still great. Berto really, keeps that to a T, likes to come in there regardless of win and loss and tell us what we did right. And then obviously the next day work on what we didn't do too well that night. But ultimately the vibes are great. And, it's a fun clubhouse.
Yeah, Keagan Gillies really stepped up last week coming in on the weekend. Not much experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that was big, especially like we didn't know if we were going to play that night. We got delayed for 2 or 3 hours there. We played at 8:15, and then he came in and gave us 5 strong, which was big for us.
What about just Braxton Bragg is a guy that I know a lot of fans have come to learn the name here this year, and he's been up in Bowie Chesapeake for a couple of weeks now. I have to ask, just because he's been shoving so much this year, and I don't even think shoving is the right word to accurately describe how well he's done, but what's impressed you about watching Bragg pitch? And can you give us any glimpse into kind of who he is off the mound a little bit? Because this is a guy a lot of Orioles fans are learning the name, but he was in Delmarva last year, so kind of an unknown at the same time.
I mean, honestly, I've known him for a week now. I haven't gotten to know him personally yet, but just off the top, he's a great guy. He's a hard worker, a great competitor. He gets on the mound, throws strikes. I mean, that's really all you can ask from the guy. The guy's got incredible stuff as a starter. I mean, he's going deep into games. He's demolishing every hitter I've seen. I mean, it's really fun to watch from the bullpen, and it helps us as relievers when he's going 5 strong every time, and then gives us a little break there in the midweeks. It's definitely awesome, but great guy, overall great player, and I can't wait to see what he does the rest of this year.
And with that, now we'll go into our last question of the show, brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridley Street in Baltimore. Checker Spot is near Oriole Park at Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. And with the Orioles out of town all this week, go check them out to watch one of the games. And now for our last call question, we're going to go to one that we always like to ask pitchers when we have them on the show. And Nick, I will let you take it away.
Yeah. Who is the one teammate, current or former, as you've worked your way up through the organization, who's the one teammate that if you had to step in the box, who's the last guy you want to see up there on the mound facing?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. I mean, honestly, lately we've been seeing, how well Levi Wells and Zach Fruit and those guys have been throwing. I think either two of those with 99 to 100 coming at me, I don't want any part of that. I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't think I want any part of any of our pitching staff, but if I see 99 to 100 coming in, I'm running out of the box. There's just absolutely no chance I'm getting anywhere near the box for that. So I'd have to say one of those two guys, just because it's a deadly fastball with some explosive off speed. So yeah, I'd probably have to say one of those two guys, just off of that.
You're not Aaron Judge up there with the height?
No, I'd rather not be. I'd rather be the one throwing to Aaron Judge.
How about which hitter from the past couple of years that you've been a teammate with would be the toughest out to get, the last out in the bottom of the ninth for the save?
Yeah, I think one or two would be obviously Jackson when he was here with us. I mean, he was unbelievable. It was hard to really get him out. He was so mature with his approach in the box that it didn't matter. He wasn't swinging at ball to balls. He wasn't, sometimes even swinging at strike to balls. He had a mature approach up there, and that was tough. I'd say probably the next guy would be like a Basayo, just because he can cover each quadrant of the box, and not only cover it, but also cover it with power. So that's also a big bat that's up there that doesn't really have many holes in his swing, and something that would be fun to face him, but also not fun at the same time. So
I'm guessing a lot of splitters trying to get him to hit it on the ground.
I'm trying to go up and in on him, whatever it takes to get him off the box just a little bit. Yeah. Make him uncomfortable and try to get him with the splitter. Absolutely.
Well, Keagan, thank you so much for joining us. We'll certainly be rooting for you the rest of the way here.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on.
You're welcome. And that does it for this episode of Orioles on the Verge. We will be back next week. In the meantime, you can check us out on many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, oriolesontheverge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member of our community today at the $3, $5, and $10 levels for bonus coverage throughout the season. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Sped, and you've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.